Hello and thank you for joining us on today's edition of Gender Agenda. I am Adora Onyenchera. Please remember, you can always connect with us on any of our social media handles now that will be displayed on your screen for your views, contributions on the program. Now, during the week, President Muhammadu Buhari officially unveiled the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPC Limited, and declared that the new entity was henceforth free from institutional regulations. Now, President Buhari, who made this public at the Presidential Villa Abuja, stated that the oil firm would from now on conduct itself on the best international business practices. Beautiful as we hope this would be adhered to, our concerns are those who make up the management board and how many females do we have? Just a few. Senator Margaret Okadibo is chairman, board of directors, Constance Onukuga, director, Lami Olnayi Ahmed, director. And the clusters of how many men, where are they women? Where are our slots? We leave the authorities to give us answers, but in the meantime, congratulations for the few women who emerged, and that is a step in the right direction. We will go straight to today's discussion, and we'll be looking at the role of policy review and implementation in curbing sexual and gender-based violence. How have the policies in place helped to tackle or curb the menace, as it is still on the rise with over how many cases reported daily? Questions begging for answer. Joining us to look at this is the Executive Director, Hair Women Hub, Angli Anebo Olaniyi. She is also a passionate activist in this aspect. She will be joining me via Zoom immediately after our About Now segment. Voices segment as well, but you have to stay with us and we'll be right back to give you that.
The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has launched the Accelerated Second Chance Education component for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence at the Spotlight Initiative One-Stop Shop Center and Women's Shelter. The Spotlight Initiative is a global multi-year partnership between the European Union and United Nations to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls by 2030. Participants at the event speak on their achievements.
UNESCO believes that education remains the strongest weapon to fight against gender inequality, conservative social norms, attitude, and behavior. It is catalytic, transformative, and sustainable. When people are educated, they know their rights. And when their rights are a priority, they can defend it, contribute to positive change in the society and peaceful coexistence. Education gives people confidence to speak up and stop culture of silence. Education is critical in bringing about positive change at community and individual levels to prevent violence against women and girls.
Gender-based violence has no geographical boundaries, and it also transcends social, economic, cultural boundaries. The figure, as we know, is 1 in 3. We have each one woman in 3 has faced one form of abuse or the other. But as we know, this figure is highly underreported, especially with
skills that will help them a long time. As we all know, education is the bedrock of every nation, and it is solid. And with education, there are positive change in individuals and even in the community.
We have information on gender-based violence. What is happening in the 36 states of the Federation is reported right now in my ministry. So this wouldn't have been possible without the collaboration we had with UNDP to do this. And we are doing so much more.
We have the facilities, the structures in place to partner with UNESCO and other NGOs driving the cause of the girl child and women. We have in the FCT 32 women centers.
The second chance education for women and girls is very, very important. I want to also appeal that there should be a third chance if necessary, and many more.
They also want more efforts and collaboration to end sexual and gender-based violence.
In the situation today in Nigeria, the voiceless, like the young girl child, may not have anybody to intervene or assist in terms of helplessness that is observed everywhere.
Of course, we have both girls and boys out of school, but based on peculiarities, the Commission directs its attention on this category in most of the states in the Federation, the girls' education.
In order to eliminate all harmful practices, such as child, early and forced marriage and female genital mutilation, and domestic and sexual violence against women, the media has a duty to add context to individual incidents by referring to the whole spectrum of this scenario. Reporting data on prevalence of sexual violence and related issues in the regions, counteracting myths and outdated attitudes, and also contacting experts to educate readers and viewers, such as yourselves. So we cannot overemphasize that without the media, the visibility, the advocacy, the conversations cannot be heard. The voices cannot be shaped. And that's why we are saying that we cannot work without hand in hand, side by side, without the media in order to end gender and sexual-based violence. I also do think that at this juncture, when we look at the output and the results that have been in the circle and in the spaces of ending girl, child, and domestic violence against women and girls, it is also very important to note that there is, yes, a lot of work going on. There is a lot of conversations, but then there is very minimal seen results. And that is because we must begin to attentively, deliberately offer information and collaborate with the media. We can only tell what we are told, and actively so we can only give results of verified incidences. And that is why it is very important to utilize the space and also utilize the partnership of the media.
All of us needs to work together to ensure that we achieve peace, achieve release of women and girls from sexual violence and other vices.
And I believe we are going to achieve our aim because we had done it in Cross River State and we had a good report, and we are going to do it in the second phase again.
To be looking at the issue of gender-based violence. This is a very laudable project. We've come to realize in Lagos State that the government cannot do it alone. So anytime we have partners like this who want to collaborate with us in ensuring that the literacy rate is reduced, we of course embrace it.
You'll be marveled that you get to a place there's no light, people have not seen light, people can't even read and write. So it's unimaginable in this age, and truly Spotlight have done a lot.
Delivering family health education and providing support to women and girls, especially in vulnerable communities. Under the Spotlight initiative, we have implemented phase 1 of the project in Ebonyi State, where we reached about 15,000 women and girls, including men and boys, on a second chance education, life skills.
Giving them awareness on how to prevent gender-based violence. And we are continuing this time around. We are reaching out to 15,000 women and girls, providing skills for them because they've been yearning for skill.
The Spotlight initiative supports one-stop shop centers and women shelters in all the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. UNESCO, through its partner Grassroots Entrepreneurship Skill Acquisition, will continue to expand the scope of education and learning by integrating the non-formal education component into all Spotlight initiative. Supported one-stop shop centers will continue to expand the scope of education and learning by integrating the non-formal education component into all Spotlight initiative supported one-stop shop centers and women's shelters across the country, so that no survivor is left behind.
The ASUU strike in Nigeria today is not something we should be celebrating. I don't want the government to sit over there and celebrate the ASUU strike or keep telling the lecturers enough is enough. It's not time to say enough is enough. I think it is time to stand up and do what they should do. Now they say education is the key and they call Nigeria the giant of Africa. If as the giant of Africa our educational system is bad, that means the whole of Nigeria becomes bad. And then here they call the youth of today the leaders of tomorrow. The leaders of tomorrow are not getting the actual education they want. Then I don't know what is going to happen to the next generation after our generation. I think I want the government to answer that question. What is going to happen to the generation after this present youth generation? So it's not really encouraging. The government should do something about it. Thank you.
No one is safe. With what happened recently in Cross River State, it's really discouraging how people, the rate of insecurity is just getting out of hand in this country. You can imagine the recent attack of the correctional prison in Kuje. It's really discouraging. I don't know what the government are really doing to tackle these issues we are having. And plus, the issue of ASUU strike will contribute to this. Because students are at home, a lot of people are thinking of, okay, this is the way I will get money. Since they cannot do any business, they don't have any businesses to do, they will just think of kidnapping. So the rate of students not going to school is really contributing to the issue of kidnapping and insecurity in Nigeria.
The ASUU strike in Nigeria today is not something we should be celebrating. I don't want the government to sit over there and celebrate the ASUU strike or keep telling the lecturers enough is enough. It's not time to say enough is enough. I think it is time to stand up and do what they should do. Now they say education is the key and they call Nigeria the giant of Africa. If as the giant of Africa our educational system is bad, that means the whole of Nigeria becomes bad. And then here they call the youth of today the leaders of tomorrow. The leaders of tomorrow are not getting the actual education they want. Then I don't know what is going to happen to the next generation after our generation. I think I want the government to answer that question. What is going to happen to the generation after this present youth generation? So it's not really encouraging. The government should do something about it. Thank you.
No one is safe. With what happened recently in Cross River State, it's really discouraging how people, the rate of insecurity is just getting out of hand in this country. You can imagine the recent attack of the correctional prison in Kuje. It's really discouraging. I don't know what the government are really doing to tackle these issues we are having. And plus, the issue of ASUU strike will contribute to this. Because students are at home, a lot of people are thinking of, okay, this is the way I will get money. Since they cannot do any business, they don't have any businesses to do, they will just think of kidnapping. So the rate of students not going to school is really contributing to the issue of kidnapping and insecurity in Nigeria.
Well, you saw the many voices, those who say enough is enough for the ASUU strike. And again, there have been several conversations on that issue, whether staying at home and having the students stay at home is not also adding to the crisis of insecurity, not just in our social space, but of the mind. Because they do say the adult mind is the devil's workshop. A lot of people have also complained that perhaps even the school environment is an escape system for some girls who are abused serially in their own immediate environment. And so having them at home could also expose them to higher levels of sexual and gender-based violence. Those are some food for thought. Angoli is also online with us to discuss this issue, especially with her expertise in some of the conversations that surround workplace harassment and sexual and gender-based violence. Good evening, Angoli. It's good to have you on the show.
Good afternoon, Adora. Thank you so much
That interests me about the work that you do is that you took it out of the nomenclature of just, the social space and went into the corporate space, which is the workplace. And there has been a lot of reports on, even though quietly reported, about, workplace harassment in the offices. Some people are not emboldened to talk about it because some of them involves their bosses, and some are just, not in the habit of reporting because they might lose their jobs. But what really is the danger about this? And you have done a report extensively on this, and we would like to know exactly what your journey has been like.
Thank you so much, Adora, for those pointers. I hope you can hear me loud and clear now. Yes, my organization and I, Air Women Hub, we ventured into a research that's supported by the Ford Foundation, and it was very critical for us to understand what the prevalence of sexual harassment is in workplaces, starting from FCT. A lot of these conversations, we understand, are quite in a rumor, if you like, and based on the culture of silence and victimization, a lot of young women especially do not come out to speak up for different intersections of reasons. And venturing into this research, this project, it was one to give us a sense of the prevalence of sexual harassment at workplaces, to give us data that you got workplaces where you're in an office, on a desk, and doing jobs of admin, etc., even in a C-suite, or even as a manager level, or you can be in your office in a salon or in a makeup studio. Those are different intersections of workplaces. There's very much nuanced. So going into our eyes to really see that, yes, the rumor is true. It's not rhetorical. And secondly, there are women who have lost livelihood, lost their sense of self-esteem and self-confidence because of the prevalence of sexual harassment at workplaces.
Emily, I know that I hear you. Data is important, but then again, breaking the barriers and killing the silence. And I think for a lot of young people, a lot of women in that space, this is very important. There are very much other cases that are going on that are highly unreported. There are issues, of course, with women living with disabilities as well in that space, who perhaps do not even have, an opening or some sort of, a safe space to report such cases. How can one be able to look at those conversations and, draw in what needs to be done? Because, yeah, we hear the social welfare system, we hear Ministry of Women Affairs, we hear the FCT and all that they are doing, but in real time, in the real sense of the word, the practicality seems to be very narrow.
Those are very good pointers, Adora. And yes, it was one of the saddest things to realize that even young women living with disabilities were also sexually harassed. And the question is usually, how do we provide a way of, if you like, escape for them? Now, those questions you've asked, I also like real-time solutions, because as you said, after getting all the data, then what next? And for me, review is about, reviewing our policies. And for me, reviewing means making it more progressive, more inclusive and measurable, and being able to also implement it, because so far, I applaud all the organizations, we're all on this table channeling and championing this. However, the numbers on ground does not necessarily reflect a greater deal. So from my own point of view, I have a list of state actors and non-state actors that really need to hold hands together, stop working in silos, and put hands to work together. First and foremost, basic policies. For the workplace, as we contextualize it to the workplace, a lot of the young women that we interviewed told us that there was no sexual harassment policies available at work for them. And, let's even double this back to regular education, Adora. The understanding of what sexual harassment is almost non-existent. We had to ensure that we first define what sexual harassment is to them, and then explain the forms by which it comes, before the young women were able to understand that, oh, is that what you mean? Because the first time you say, have you been sexually harassed, bless their hearts, they'll tell you no. But it's when you now give a definition, they tell you, oh, yes, I have. So there's an education gap there. There's an awareness gap there as well, Adora. Absolutely. I always appreciate the fact that you always come from a media point of view. There's a massive gap in what the media is selling and telling us. There's a massive gap in the fact that, yes, a lot of these organizations, I mean, I applaud what UNESCO is doing, but I would ask them, what is your media advocacy plan to ensure that everybody actually understands the meaning of sexual and gender-based hatred, on what sexual harassment means? Because, I mean, it's clearly saying unwarranted approach and unwarranted, you know, sexual nature gestures, right? But do you even understand what it is before you're able to have that? So for me, one, we need to definitely, as we're reviewing our policy, Adora, how are we re-educating? For me, attitudinal change and consequences for wrong, inappropriate behavior. And the media needs to begin to make critical awareness to ensure that this happens. You and I have an opportunity to take this so passionately. Just language, we created a show, we did a quick show on Ndinaike, which means, you know, rape. And
yes,
you
I
and
remember.
I, because we're passionate about it, we had no funding. We had it from our pocket.
Absolutely.
But because we wanted to ensure that our Igbo-speaking community, they know what Ndinaike means, which is rape in Igbo, we created a script around it so that we can share with our brothers and sisters in our Igbo community that Ndinaike Adiroma. So those are the things I would like to recommend going forward.
All right, Angli, thank you so much for those views. And I know that we'll be coming back to this conversation next week, because I do know that we haven't even scratched the surface. There is a lot of layers to this conversation, and it's quite sad. I would say, yes, there is work being done, but how far-reaching are the efforts, and how do we step them down to communities? And like you say, silos should come together. Anyways, thank you so much, and I'll let you run off and do what you need to do. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Opportunity. Thank you so much, Adora.
The Enugu state government has targeted over 1 million children for free drugs, medical consumables, and other routine services in its maternal, newborn, and child health week. The program, which is the first round in the year, is also designed to reach out to 280,000 pregnant women when they attend antenatal programs in health facilities scattered within the state. Inaugurating the program in Enugu, the wife of the state governor, Monica Ogwani, urged pregnant women to take attendance to antenatal seriously. She also enjoined them to ensure they carry out necessary tests to understand their conditions better. The First Lady noted that the test would afford pregnant women the chance to easily detect when pregnancy complications were looming. She added that it would also enable them to deal with issues on time and take useful counsel from a physician on their health condition. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has warned that girls as young as 12 years old are being forced into child marriage and female genital mutilation, as the most severe drought in 40 years pushes families to the edge. In the regions of Ethiopia worst affected by the drought, child marriage has on average more than doubled in the space of 1 year, according to UNICEF's analysis. The number of children at risk of dropping out of school across Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia due to the impact of the crisis has tripled within 3 months, leaving vast numbers of adolescent girls at greater risk. UNICEF is working to expand life-saving child protection and gender-based violence services to respond to the growing protection needs among vulnerable women and children across the horns of Africa. This includes running community-based programs to reduce the risks of violence, exploitation, abuse and child marriage, and providing services to help women and children recover after violence.
So Nigerian youths are not happy with the federal government for always having lip service to Nigeria's education system, and that's coming from someone in Asokoro. And I can't quite read that. So much for that view, and we can take that phone call coming in. But in the meantime, please remember, they said 2 weeks they will call off strike. Fingers crossed, we are counting down. Is it the more or less you see? we do not know. My name is Adora Onyenchere. See you again next week. Goodbye for now.
The world, women are longing to be free, no longer in the shadows, forced to stay behind, but side by side in true equality. So sing a song for women everywhere. Let it ring around the world.